Hello, fellow baggers, and welcome back to Bluebaggers Edge. And we are here, of course, to, well, offer a preview, I guess, of the round 17 clash against our arch nemesis in Collingwood. And if we were to be honest with ourselves, I think we would probably say, there's 8 weeks to go, 8 rounds to go, and we probably would prefer there to be, the end of the season after this week, such as the unspirited effort that we've seen from both the players and the coaching staff. The Groundhog Day that we always talk about, the constant issues, rinse, repeat, same old. We're just stuck in this nightmare loop virtually. And just as we are thinking that we're waking up from the nightmare, we find out that we're actually waking up from a nightmare within a nightmare within a nightmare. That's just an ongoing loop week after week at this stage. And that kind of summarizes the 2025 season in a nutshell, really. So, there's really not much more to say. Of course, we are here to offer some sort of preview for this game, which we will be doing in terms of probably more so the ins and outs, expectations, everything else. But, in terms of talking about it as a genuine contest, using that word as a contest, can we even, use that word by definition with any authority, considering the performances we've seen in recent times have been so far and away anything but a contest? I think it's just a match, really. It's probably a training drill for Collingwood in terms of the way they're talking about things. They're going to be going to this game, I think, with a bit of an understanding that it's going to be easygoing, and they would deny that, of course, because they don't want to be seen as underestimating their opposition. But I can almost guarantee internally that they would be treating this as a little bit of a training drill, Carlton being a laughing stock, the way the team's been playing, key players not performing, lack of motivation. It's an interesting time. It's an interesting time for the Carlton Football Club, and being a supporter, member, everything else, passionate fan of the Carlton Football Club, it really does test your steel, I think, and not your support, because I think you always are going to support the team, and nothing will break the bond, passion, and love that we have for the football club. But it really does, make you wonder and second guess. How did we get to this point? How do we get to this point? It's really an incredible turn of events in the worst possible way, really. Let's have a look, I guess, first and foremost. I'll flick across on the other screen here and show you, I guess, leading into this game. Of course, we all know what transpired against Port Adelaide, and it was an absolute shit show, really, if we were to put things quite bluntly. And it was just a terrible showing all around. But as you can see here, this was, Willow Ratings is a website that I always love to delve into in terms of looking at stats beneath the surface, which is virtually what the AFL website only offers, just surface level stats. Willow Ratings we kind of use just to delve a little bit deeper and unearth the good, the bad, and the ugly. And when I did the review for the Port Adelaide game, this website, Willow Ratings, hadn't yet updated because I did the review as a live, virtually straight after the game, as it was still fresh in my mind. And you wasn't able to analyse things in great detail. But I won't go into detail and reverse over what was a terrible, terrible game, as we know. But as I always do, just looking at in terms of, where the side conceded scores, it's always a fascinating look, and there seems to be a common trend now, and I knew it would be the case where, in terms of stoppage, as you can see there, we got absolutely pummeled, as we have been in recent weeks. Clearance, we've been pummeled against North Melbourne, West Coast even, comically enough, it's the truth. But again, just listening to, Michael Voss post-game, his presser, him just wheeling out all these positives, all these positive stats to try and paper over cracks. And, I'm all for looking at the positive side of things. And I'm very much a person that likes to look at the silver linings to come out of negatives, but we're kind of beyond that point, I think. And we need to be honest with ourselves. And he was dredging up all these things, all the positives. The team's actually been pretty good, and, we've had some positives to come out of, the season to date. And I just always fall back on the fact that he says that, like, the game plan is built off contested work, stoppage, and clearance. And then you look at these stats after every defeat, and it's like, well, if it's built off clearance and stoppage, why then are we conceding 8 goals via that avenue in an area of the ground that we pride ourselves on as being, our bread and butter? It's just, it reeks of arrogance. It reeks of a coach that doesn't want to face facts. And when we're talking about facts, he's quite happy to wheel out stats because that's a factual, representation of performances and matches. But we just have to be honest with ourselves. Like Michael Voss, if this is what your game plan is built upon, it's not working at all. It is not working. And that is just evidence. And it's not just a microcosm. It's not one week. It's a common trend week after week. And it's part of the reason why I'm asking him to leave. And I'm hopeful. I'm surely the football club, Graham Wright, everyone else that wants to be part of the review, he is a big part of the problem. When we're talking about off-field, when we're talking about coaching, he is I think that the core coaching group that needs to, unfortunately, be shown the door, respectfully, and likewise his coaching staff as well across the board. Maybe Aaron Hamill keeps his spot as the defensive coach. The defence, by and large, has actually been okay at various stages. Some lapses, as we know, in terms of disconnect between defence, midfield. But by and large, I think the way that the team is being, structured, the rolling maul virtually, pushing defence past the halfway point of the field into the forward line and then being absolutely exposed on turnover with a quick kick over the top. Defenders being, Carlton goal side instead of opposition goal side to prevent those, long kicks, so on and so forth. But yeah, I just thought I'd just point this out because we didn't have a chance to do it in the review. So with that, let's get on to the preview for this round 17 clash with Collingwood. And let us start by having a look at the injuries. So injuries obviously coming out of the game, you would have heard already. Adam Saad, he is out for the next 1 to 2 weeks with concussion, and Sauce is out with a groin injury for 2 weeks. So obviously that means there's 2 spots opened up straight away. Before even factoring in potentially dropping guys based upon, lack of form, which could apply to quite a vast majority of the team. But we want to have a look at the lineup that we used against Port Adelaide. And from there, we will adjust things and kind of work out who may come in to this side. God help them. I do feel sorry for them. But I think with Sardi being out and with Sauce being out, 2 sort of key pillars in defence, I would arguably say that Sauce is more important than Saad. A lot of you out there will probably agree with me there. He's an incredible season. And I think the obvious replacement is probably Harry O'Farrell. I think he was pretty unlucky to be, shown the door to go back to the VFL because he showed some really solid signs on debut. He probably comes back in, has shown some really good form in the VFL again. So I would like to see him come in off the back of that. Lockie Cowan as well has played, the past couple of weeks in the VFL. So showed some really good form in the VFL as well, which was very, very handy. So I think he probably comes in for Adam Saad. And as you can see here on the injury list, right up, they did mention Harry O'Farrell. And Matt Carroll's another one as well. He lost his spot against Port Adelaide. Showed some decent signs there. But Ashton Moyer, I think, is one that has been biding his time in the VFL and probably deserves a bit of a crack. 4 goals, mercurial, looked really good and deserves a crack at senior level. And a guy that I don't think is listed here, hasn't been spoken about, but Lemmy, he has kicked, 24 or thereabouts goals in the VFL, multiple goals on multiple occasions, bags of 7, bags of 4, looked really good. And I would love to see him get a crack. We're at the stage now, finals are, out of our range, out of our mind, everything else. and would love to see guys get a crack. Lemmy probably deserved a crack a little while ago. Harry's out for the next 2 to 4 weeks. Use this as an opportunity to see what he can offer at senior level. There have been players in the past that have been probably given a debut ahead of their time, and some have looked a little bit out of their depth. Others have come on and looked really good. We think about, he's an absolute superstar already, even though he is still young in his career. But Sam Darcy came in and probably raw, skinny, didn't have the size, but showed some really good signs. I think Lemmy, I'm not comparing the two by any sense of the word there, but just talking about giving guys a crack, key position players a crack, even though they're probably physically not ready yet, which Lemmy, he probably needs a little bit more size for the key position post that he does play. He has shown some good form at VFL level, and I am always an advocate of giving youngsters a crack if they are in good form and showing good form in the seconds. So would love to see him come in. In terms of other changes that could be made, I know Charlie's in a really probably the worst patch of footy that he's been playing across his career to date, but I think we have to stick with him. He's a superstar. We know what he can offer when he is up and about. It's just him along with a whole host of others just out of form and low on confidence. And that's kind of an insight into what can happen when a team is so down and low on confidence. You even get your superstars like him, missing shots from, 20 metres out on a slight angle. Billy Wilson made his debut. Would like to see him get another crack as well. Do we potentially give Doc a bit of a run in the VFL? I think he's to his credit come back and showed some good patches of form after being relegated to the VFL in the early part of the season. Would love to know your thoughts. Who else comes in? Who goes out? I think with Lemmy coming in, you probably have to drop a tall. It would, in this case, I think, be Lewis Young. He doesn't really do too much in terms of offering, goal-scoring power, I think. I'm just thinking about the coaching moves. Does with Sauce being out of the team, does Lewis Young go back? Which I'd hate to see, because I think Lewis Young's better used and shown better form, especially in recent times up forward. Ashton Moyer comes in. Who goes out off the back of him? Is it a Jesse Motlop? Is it a Jesse? I know he kicked a goal. He kicked, 1 goal on the weekend. But I think his turn to be relegated has been in the mix for a fair while, has been given a stay of execution for a fair stretch of games, and would love to see Ashton Moyer come in off the back of that. I know it's not like for like. Ashton Moyer is more of a, mid-sized to, he can almost play tall because of his leap and spring that he does have in his step. So do we make that sort of move? Maybe. We'll just have to wait and see at the selection table. But I would love to know your thoughts. Who do you think comes into the team? Who do you think deserves a stint in the VFL, apart from majority of the team, as we know? But being sensible about things, let us know what your thoughts are there and who comes in. So would love to know what you are thinking. But really for me, expectations. What are we thinking? What are we really hoping for against the Pies? We just want a spirited effort, really. We're kind of at that point where it's the basics. It's the basics now that we're really seeking. It's pressure, it's intent, it's passion, it's fight, a contest, as we spoke about from the top. Because really, looking at the past 3 games, like that game there against Collingwood earlier in the season, back in round 4, just a shit show. 63-46, 8-15 to 6-10-46. Even prior to that, as we know, McGovern missing the shot on goal. 84-81, then 79-85. Like, historically, there's only really been a couple of goals in it between both teams, and we know that's kind of built off the rivalry and the rhetoric around it and the storylines, the history, everything else, more so than form lines and everything else. But if we are being honest with ourselves, like Collingwood, and I've spoke about it in the past, and I spoke about it at length in the review of the Port Adelaide game, just talking about teams that really, I think, set the benchmark, and I think Collingwood are one of those. As hard as it is to say, I totally respect them, have respected them for a long, long while, and that is really built off their senior coach. He just brings about, honesty. He brings about, a culture that he's helped build when he came to Collingwood that is all inclusive, that is, working for your teammate, and it's a game plan that it's not one dimensional. Like he has, the way that he drills into the players during training sessions. They have, scenarios that they really train to. They have, a gel of chemistry between the three tiers of the field: defense, midfield, and the forwards. They're just such in unison. The way that they run to position, the way that they are so well drilled, and you compare it to the Carlton Football Club, and it's like coached by an under-9 coach that doesn't know what he's doing, that is, trying to employ a style of play that is so archaic, one-dimensional, and, easily found out by the opposition that, off the back of that, the players themselves don't know where to run to. They have virtually thrown their hands in the air. I think we're kind of at this stage now. We saw it against the Power. Like, I have no doubt they're taking a stand. They're virtually protesting, which you hate to see, especially because the higher ups don't want to make a call on Voss's future over the next 8 weeks. But I think it's beyond that point, and I'm virtually already looking towards 2026 and beyond. We're kidding ourselves otherwise. So, this could go either one or two ways. We could be a spirited contest. Carlton come out, they lose by about a goal, as we have in 2 of the last 3 encounters. And what's spoken about, will be something that comes from a positive lens. Questions about, okay, well, maybe it's not the players. Maybe the players are, playing to, earn some respect back. Like, that will be the narrative. But if it's not that, I guess, option, it's option B, which is like the way that we played against Port Adelaide, really, in essence. They'll come out, they won't give a shit, they will throw their hands in the air, they will be defiant to play the way that Michael Voss is archaically trying to play them. And to a point, I actually understand their perspective. Like, if you're in a workplace, you're working for a boss or manager that you absolutely just is an absolute, isn't getting the best out of you as an employee, maybe you don't get along with, maybe he's an asshole, it makes your ability to, perform your role, but also enjoy your work, pretty, difficult spot to be in. And I think about, and I'm not likening Michael Voss to Michael Malthouse, but I just always think back to, Mark Murphy. I've met him a couple of times, one of which was when I was working with Dill Buckley on Dylan Friends on his podcast, and he spoke about, playing under Mick Malthouse, who he didn't get along with, and they butted heads. And it was at that point where if Mick Malthouse did not get given the sack that season, in all likelihood, Murphy would have requested a trade to another team. And he was kind of some ways down that path. And, relationships and I think all that side of things outside of what we see on field is such an underrated and hidden aspect of footy. And it's the team chemistry that really bonds things together that, I think, Craig McRae does so well with the Pies. Like, he's got that relationship between him and the players, and just so envious. I'm just like, we could have gone for a coach very similar, not having the experience of a previous coach in Michael Voss, but, brought fresh ideas to the game, a bit of youthfulness, has been an assistant coach for quite a number of years in Adam Kingsley, and we didn't go for him. But I think we'll speak about that at length at a different stage when we are reviewing the season that was and sliding doors moments, because that's kind of where I'm at the moment. I'm just thinking about 2026 and beyond. And what's given me most excitement isn't, facing teams and the prospect of winning and making finals. It's beyond that point, as I said. Like it's now seeing youngsters getting debuts. It's youngsters getting the opportunity at senior level to show what they could produce longer term, and give us a bit of a snapshot of like the future for Carlton Football Club, because there will no doubt be guys moved on field as well as off. When we're talking about the coaching staff, that's going to happen. I've no doubt about it. But we need to work out, who can offer what at senior level, and it's not the expectation of players making their debut and having 30 disposals and kicking 4 goals. Like it's being willing to work, and showing a willingness to contest, and showing a bit of passion as well. Like the core purpose of playing in a football team is just having the passion to play week in, week out. A lot of players at this stage, it just seems as though they're rocking up, earning their paycheck, and that's that. They're kind of already checked out, which you can understand from a perspective, but this has kind of been the mindset dating back to round 1 virtually. Like that was the approach for that game against Richmond, that the players had already checked out. And it makes me really, really worry about things off field, if that's the case, in terms of, as I was just speaking about, with regards to relationships between players, relationships between Michael Voss and the players, the senior players, the leadership group, and so on and so forth. So really it's a big, big worry. It's a big, big worry across the board. Do I expect us to beat Collingwood? No, not a chance. Not a chance. And it's really going to be interesting, I guess, perspective, seeing who turns up, the number that we have, because it is of course, our home game against the Pies. And I'm wagering there's going to be more black and white in the crowd than there will be navy blue, which isn't a far stretch to imagine, or a big call to make. But we're at that point of the season where a lot of supporters, I think, are checking out, and the weather's pretty shitty. You don't want to be exposing yourself to the elements and seeing a performance that is, doesn't possess any spirit, any fight, any will, so on and so forth. So, I mean, expectations for me, much the same, really. I think, it's dire straits now. And I don't buy into the narrative that they're going to give Michael Voss 8 weeks remaining of the season to, prove himself. He's done and dusted, and I would much prefer, without being a dystopian sort of viewpoint on things, I think it's what I saw against Port Adelaide was probably a good thing. I thought it was going to be a bit of a flashpoint in terms of forcing the board, the CEO, everyone else at the senior level to make moves and to make those moves now, put them into effect, and give the supporters something to, I guess, we always look for wins to be that, release of pressure. But if you're not getting wins, and if pressure is mounting, the only way to release the pressure is to, unfortunately, make some moves in the coaching ranks. So I actually think this might be a bloodbath, really, in all honesty. If Collingwood come out and they want a percentage boost, if they come out and they see this as an opportunity to, fire on all cylinders and really put the foot down, this could be an ugly game, much like Port Adelaide, but worse, I think. And the effect, given it is an arch rival, that's just going to, mount the pressure tenfold. And really, as I said at this point, I'm putting my hands up and I'm saying what will be will be. I'd love to see the players recapture some spirit, some form, some, fight. But I think it's beyond that point, really, as I said. I hope it's not. I mean, in the heart of hearts, being a bagger through and through, you just hate seeing that. You hate losing to the arch rival, really. If we're going to win one more game for the rest of the season, please let it be against the Pies. Give us something. Give us something before this horrid season ends. We'll take that. We will. But any Pies watching, I will happily admit you are the favourites for a reason. You are the best team in the competition at the moment. I'm quite an honest, I think, footy fan. Outside of me being a one-eyed Carlton supporter, I think I am pretty objective when it comes to my my read on things in terms of the competition as a whole, other teams, everything else. So rightfully so, like, yeah, they will come out and they'll come out firing. And if they win by a big margin, I won't be surprised. Really, I won't be surprised, especially if Carlton come out and perform the way they did against Port Adelaide. That's just the nature of it. Other thing I wanted to mention was I actually went to the club today. And this is the new Blue Out hat, and I must admit, an incredible hat. One of my favourites. I don't know about the Carlton on the side there, but a really nice hat, and you know, you want to rep your team that you love, and I will through and through. But you know, went to the club for the first time in a while. I don't go down there too much since obviously I was working there back in 2018. But it's always a joy to go in there and, you know, see the Premiership Cups. But that's the first thing you see when you walk through the sliding doors, and it's like, when are we going to see this again? When are we going to see this again? The reason I went into the club with my wife, she's also a massive bagger, as you might have seen on our previous live stream and other streams. But this hat ordered online, and it was a medium large, which is normally the size that I have in hats, and I've got a, you know, not a pinhead, but a sizable head, I'll say that, and it didn't fit my head, so had to get a medium small, so head shrinking potentially. But went in there on the way to visit our baby boy, who's in the intensive care unit at the moment. But you know, it really does give me perspective at the moment. Like, footy is, as much as I love Carlton and I love AFL, in the grand scheme of things, you know, it puts in perspective. As frustrating as the performances are, I really couldn't give two shits, because, you know, what's kind of going on in your personal life, and, you know, when it comes to your family and kids and everything else, and your firstborn, it really does put things into perspective, and there's bigger things to life to worry about. But yeah, it'd be a nice thing to go and watch the boys play with a bit of spirit, bit of effort, and come away with a win. Bit of a circuit breaker in terms of, you know, what's going on in life and stuff as well. But yeah, it is what it is. We'll rock up, we'll support the boys, and we'll go from there. Again, let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Changes you'd love to see and changes that you expect to see, and expectations. You know, do changes need to be made at this point of the season? Do you agree that Michael Voss is or has been given the backing to see out the remainder of the 8 weeks of the season? Or do we need to fast track things? I'm kind of in the boat of fast tracking things, and you know, that's off field and on field. Give youngsters a bit of a crack. Give them a crack if they're showing good form in the VFL. Don't just throw guys in off the back of no decent form in the VFL. We need to, you know, build that reward for effort system within the football club itself, and, you know, build a bit of positivity, I think, at this point. But that's it, ladies and gents. Thanks as always for tuning in, and we will be back, of course, to review this game, and we'll see you then. Go Baggers.